Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Wealth Clock with Stephen Weinstock. I'm your host, Stephen Weinstock. And on this show, I talk to top operators, founders, and closers about what really works in business, real estate, and life. Today's guest is Joel Wolh, the driving force between Powwow Events and specifically and notably for my real estate audience, the Redeal Conference, which was just held a week ago from the time of this recording. It has quickly become one of the major events in real estate. In its fourth year, Redeal is already drawing over 1,200 attendees, including some of the biggest players in the industry. Joel's also someone who says he didn't just start a business, he started his life at the age of 40. We'll find out why. This podcast is sponsored in part by my company, We Capital, and my Goethals Capital Fund. And just a quick note, if you're an accredited investor, my company is currently buying property in New Jersey. Reach out to me if you're interested, and let's start this interview. Okay, Joel, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
I'm not a founder or operator or whatever it is you said that the podcast is intended for, but you invited me on, so I'm here. I'm very excited to be here.
Okay, so I met you recently. I've been attending your events the last couple of years. I've seen the Powwow name all over. Take us back to the beginning. How did Powwow Events get started? And what was the moment you realized that this will be something big?
I'll try to make it brief. I've always trended towards events and in-person networking because I don't know, I've tended towards it. A number of years ago, I organized a large event, a fundraiser event, and that probably has somehow helped in my building blocks. That was after Hurricane Sandy. I organized a large fundraiser. I attended a large business conference, the LTB. It was a From in the Jewish Community Conference run by Menny Hoffman. And that also gave me a little bit of a kick, it pulled me somehow in some ways. I got into Amazon. Amazon was booming and there was conference after conference. So that got me going to a lot of conferences. And whenever I went to a conference, I remember telling Menny, next year I'll be on your stage. I felt the urge to be in the center of it. At that point, I thought it meant being on the stage. Later on, I learned that you'd rather be the guy that pays the talent than be the talent. So that line somewhere, I think it's great. You don't want to be a singer. You want to be the guy that pays the singer. In Amazon, events were very important. So many things were going on in the industry. There was a constant need to attend events and get educated and meet new vendors. I spoke at some events and then I started helping out some events. And during that time, Beryl Solomon and I on LinkedIn, we were like the early OGs of when LinkedIn started going social. This is 2017. And then in 2018, 19, we launched a giant LinkedIn global event. It was the first big LinkedIn event, 1,000 people at Bellworks. And that really also gave me a push into that event space. Shout out to Beryl Solomon for giving me that push. And things started coming my way. My partner, Yehuda Susskind, reached out to me in 2019, I believe, and said, I'm working with this organization called Hope. And we help families in Lakewood, New Jersey with a one-time event. They wanted to jump onto the event bandwagon, specifically Amazon, and use it as a fundraiser. Would you help us? And I said, sure, it sounds like a great cause. At that time, I wasn't leveraging money. I was leveraging attention. That's all I cared about. I was running a pretty large Amazon advertising agency. And so I was just happy to help out. We built a really nice event in Lakewood. We called it Amazon for Hope. Then COVID hit. And then my business took a little bit of a dive. In the meantime, I did a startup meetup. So we had tech guys in the city. We did one in the city. We did one in Miami. Just smaller meetup, so some investors, some speakers. So I started dabbling a little bit in that space. It pulled me, obviously, for some reason. And then COVID hits. My business, which relied heavily on me attending events. I'm a people's person. I go out there and I just get visibility, even online. When you can't go anywhere, you can't post. There's nothing much you can post. You can just post yourself in your backyard. So going to events is something that creates a lot of content for you, especially if you're speaking, if you're helping to organize. And so my business really started taking a hit. I was also getting very bored, very antsy. So I wasn't paying as much attention to what I needed to do. And then my neighbor and good friend, Max Schlesinger, who was also in the Amazon space, says they had just so he got a house with a flat backyard, right? It's 1 acre of flat grass. It's just perfect for large gatherings. And Riverside had reached out. They were doing a lot of events. It was towards the end of COVID and they wanted to do an event outdoors. And somehow they got his number and he said, sure, he'll host it in his backyard just because he's a nice guy. And when we attended that event, I said, Mac, why don't we do a meetup for Amazon? Make a couple of bucks. We'll bring people out here. We'll get the hookah. We'll get the cigars. We'll just do it all in the backyard. You can have tables for booths. And okay, so we started planning. Yehuda Suskin hears about it. He calls me, says, oh, I hear you're doing an Amazon event. I was like, Yehuda, I want to make a couple of dollars. So leave me alone with Hope. I love you. I love Hope. And I didn't know him that well. I knew him from helping him organize that one event. But he was persistent. And he says, you don't understand. I already have a sponsor. They already were asking us when the next event is. It was actually a great event, the Hope event. So he had sponsors that wanted to come in again for this event. So I said, you can join us with your sponsors, but we're doing this for profit. We'll make Hope the charity beneficiary, but this is a for-profit event. He says, okay. He went back and forth. He says he was in. We did a proper conference at the Eagle Ridge Golf Course. It was a jam-packed house. It was incredible. And at the after party on the golf course, overlooking, it was just beautiful. We're standing around with cigars and drinks. We're feeling like on top of the world. And I just, like, it clicks. And Shimmy J goes on video and says, hey, Joel, there's this Amazon meetup here. And I said, don't tell anybody, but this is not about Amazon. This is about bringing people together in a big but intimate way and helping them grow together. 30-second video, and it's exactly what we're doing today. And that started us off. We did another Amazon event, and then we said, okay, we have to spread our wings. We're going to go for real estate. We're going to do healthcare. And that was going to be our first 2 general events. So we created this big business event with different categories, and what it was a feeder just to attract different companies to eventually do other events in other industries. So that event, people looked at us like, oh, no, it didn't make much sense. It was too general. But that's where we attracted our first exhibitors for our real estate, our healthcare. And as we started planning healthcare, my brother, Mordecai, who runs a large healthcare consulting a home care consulting company in New York, reached out and says, hey, at the healthcare show, which is for nursing homes, I don't know where home care agencies fit in, but maybe we do like a party, like a networking event within the event. So we start talking about that, and that becomes the event. So our first event ended up being a large home care event. It was immediately the #1 home care agency event in the Northeast. So we got these home care agencies in. It was speakers, booths. We did it at El Caribe in Brooklyn. Gorgeous, beautiful. Everything was top of the line. It was amazing. It was followed by our healthcare event that we were planning. And then we came to real estate. And we're planning, we're talking to different people. We're actually talking to Riverside because we wanted to find those insiders, right? So with home care, it came to me somehow. And healthcare, we had hooked up with a couple different people to see who could be that insider who can help source the speakers and get us some of the early sponsors, get us some of the early attendees, and it snowballs from there. If you want to know how to do this type of stuff, all you need is to start with a couple of basic ingredients, and then it just one speaker brings the other, one attendee brings the other. And so it's not rocket science, but it definitely helps to have those partners or hosts or whatever we choose to call them that could give us that shortcut and amplify our presence in that industry. So we're going out there, we're meeting at Riverside. They had this event, maybe you were there. It was at one of the stadiums in New York, and it was in some kind of suite upstairs, and they had some kind of real estate education event. So we came to meet one of their guys, and he says, no offense, guys, but you can do this yourself. You don't need us. Everyone's in real estate. You don't need us. We're just going to hold you down. And we're like, okay. Well, they were open to help, but we're like, okay, we'll see. So we leave the event. And as it was Mac and myself were at this event. So as we're leaving this event, I tell Mac, there was this ReBeach event in during this last summer. So this is in June. And I said, last summer there was this remote event and we saw it all over pictures, people coming, big boats and speakers. And it was very grand and a lot of fun. And I said, we should maybe reach out to them because they already, Riverside was more of a corporate type of thing with more focus on education. Remote was more fun, was more our style. So I said, maybe we should reach out to them and see if they would join. And Max says, oh, by the way, these guys, this guy Sam Lefkowitz called me a few weeks ago and he asked me something like that. I'm like, Mac, are you kidding me? So we get in the car, we dial Sam's number. And this was June. They'd had zero plans. I think they bit off more than they could chew, and they weren't planning on having an event. I said, we're building a real estate event. You got some of the local real estate guys, or a lot of the local real estate guys. Why don't we do this together? And they said, great, let's go. So by the time the drive ended, we had a date of August 1st. We gave us 6 weeks to plan the event. And I said, a boat is not a great idea because we want to do a full conference with booths, with proper sessions, proper auditorium. At this time, we were already into our third non-Amazon event. We've done like 8 Amazon events. The production list, so to speak, we knew what it takes to the formula for a great event. And so I said, we can do a boat, but what if we did that reboat and we turned it into a beach? We did a ReBeach. So we find a venue on a beach and you still get the party, but you do have the proper building. So I found that venue, found a building with a beach. But that was, I don't remember where it was. New Rochelle. So it was New Rochelle, the surf club, and it was chaos. It was a disaster because we planned for, as it was moving forward, we thought 500, 600 people because people weren't buying tickets fast enough. And we didn't realize how the Hasidic crowd, for those not familiar, tend to book last minute. So at the night of the event and in the morning, suddenly we've got 1,200, 1,300 bodies showing up, food. It was chaos, but we got it together towards the evening. By the time it was 8 o'clock at night, everyone was fed. But I thought it was great because we brought the crowd together and we made it happen. And of course, we planned a much improved events for the next year. And we got to know a lot of the real estate guys in the interim. And as we build out other events, it's interesting what happens, the overlap. There's nursing home operators, there's home care agency owners, there's real estate owners, there's construction guys. And it just starts overlapping. We start getting to know everybody and it becomes somewhat easier to plan these events. And because we're hitting one event after the next, we can pivot and learn. So instead of learning a year later, we learn a month later because we've got something else going on that gives us the grounds to fix things up. So that was the real estate thing. That was a long introduction.
Oh yeah, I had a bunch of things about the question, but I think you answered most of them with your intro. Yeah, I've been to the ReBeach event. It was great. As somebody as an attendee, I didn't notice the chaos. I'm friendly with Chaim Lefkowitz. Afterwards, he told me that they were expecting less people, a lot of last minute bookings. He said there wasn't enough food. We didn't notice it. I didn't notice it. The people I was with didn't notice it. Maybe a few people. And I was there to the end, maybe because I got fed at 8 o'clock. Maybe that's the reason. But I think I saw you post somewhere. It's better to have people leaving hungry than to have nobody show up and have lots of leftover food.
Would you rather have food or people? I'd rather have people. But yeah, to me, it was, this is great. This is Fire Island in the real way without the scam. Not fire, whatever you call it, fire festival. So that was, to me, that was great. And I find they say every failure builds you, blah, blah, blah. It really does, because if you learn from it, if you take your ego and throw it in the garbage and you say, okay, what did we do wrong? Or what did I do wrong? How can I fix this? You just improve and you improve. And now it's an event a month, basically, or more. And we're constantly improving. There is no event that goes by that we're not driving home at 11 o'clock at night and calling each other, our partners, and saying, okay, how do we improve this? How do we improve that? And the scariest thing for us is an event that's like flawless and perfect, because how do we top this? How do we improve it? How do we make it better?
So I've been attending, like I said, the events the last couple of years, the real estate events, keeps getting better. keeps improving. Just the level of the guests, the attendees, the shows, the panels just keeps getting better.
Well, we did have an amazing MC this year.
Yes.
We talk about that.
Yes, I had the privilege of being the MC at the last Redeal event. And I guess that goes to my next question. You're managing these high stakes, big personalities that are showing up to this event. There's thousands of details. How do you manage every specific detail? How do you manage your own mental bandwidth by doing this? There's so many details. You're dealing with a sophisticated audience. You're not dealing with low level executive. You're dealing with owners. You have guys who could own 5,000 apartments in New York City, or you could have a guy who's doing $2 billion a year in commercial finance. And these are people showing up. And if they want a slice of pizza from your event, or they want a steak, you got to make sure every detail is really spot on. How do you do that? Is that just your team? Are you just a detail fanatic?
There's two things there. One is like, how do you deal with chaos? Like, there's just like so many things. And the other, how do you actually do it? I'm going to answer what Ruby Sean, which I was very impressed that he answered, because we had Ralph Erskine from Meridian speaking to Ruby Sean from Camonbees, and he asked him, for years and years, Ruby, you're waking up super early, going to pray, and then you involve yourself with the study, and then you do charity, but like you have a schedule, like early in the morning. But he answers, first of all, everyone's different. He's a nerd. The man is a nerd. He wakes up early. If you told him, Ruby, go wake up for the 9 o'clock minion and walk into shul and have a coffee, he doesn't know how to do it. I don't know him very well, but I can imagine. I grew up in Seagate where his brother lived. I don't know if I don't think he was involved in the business. Very simple people, but it's the same type of person like you. So it's important to know my brother actually, who's very different from me, posted on LinkedIn yesterday, like, I'm getting more and more messages and WhatsApps. I'm doing so much more of communication. How do you focus on actually building the company, doing the stuff that need to happen within the company? So Yehuda says, ask your brother, Joel Wolh. And the answer is that's to me, that's how I operate. If my phone is on silent all day and I just have to focus on building a project, like I can never do it. I need that chaos. So to me, I thrive on this guy's arriving. We need a golf cart to take him from the parking lot. At the same time, the security needs to move 2 feet up, and the pizza guy's got to start cleaning up. Sushi guy's coming in, and we got to make sure the ice at the bottom of the milk bucket is cleaned up because I noticed it was cloudy. And then we're picking stuff up off the floor at the same time. And then make sure that Stephen Weinstock, oh, shoot, does he have the next speaker? So I thrive off that. But of course, you have to have a big team that is, and shout out to my partners. So first of all, in real estate, Chaim and Joel are the industry insiders. They have the group. At this point, we know a lot of the people, and, but at the same time, they're sweating, calling people, inviting them to the shows. I got my partner, Yehuda Suskind, who is a sales whiz, who manages our sales team and brings every single sponsor in and makes sure that the finance runs well. Then we got Max Schlesinger, who just runs all of our logistics, our technical, our communications, so much that needs to happen in the background. And then we've got a lot of different people doing different things, and graphic and website design and phone calls and bookkeeping. And so there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And then I get to just be in 1,000 WhatsApp chats and constantly just coordinate this event. And so they're usually at 3 p.m. or so at an event, we're working on already starting to shift the website over to next year, and then we move immediately to the next event. While we're still managing the event, we're okay. What do we need for next event? What marketing do we need? What do we need to do in terms of communication? What do we need to do in terms of venue, whatever? So we start actually, and then we take notes of, okay, the pastries were good. This was not good. Let's switch it around next time. So it's a lot, but that to me, it comes natural. So it's not really an answer that people want to hear.
Yeah, you mentioned Chaim Lefkowitz, and since this is a real estate focused podcast, Chaim Lefkowitz, I know definitely pre-COVID, so I guess it's at least 6 years. I met him when he was still a commercial mortgage broker. He actually set me up with a seller of a few apartment buildings in Ohio, which I ended up purchasing, I believe, in early 2021. So that worked out. And I've been friendly with him for a long time. I go with him to other events sometimes. A couple of weeks ago, we were at an event in Florida in Miami Beach. It was a nice event. It wasn't a powwow event. It definitely wasn't a luxury event, even though it was a real estate event. But I had the opportunity to be speaking there, so that was very nice. But yeah, between you and Chaim, this Redeal event has really become a must see. When it was announced that I was going to be the MC, first of all, Chaim asked me, do I want to be the MC? Could you do me a favor and be the MC? I said, a favor? I would love to be the MC. I'm going to go into my closet and find some sort of a nightclub jacket so I stand out from the crowd so I could wear it. And I had all these people like reach out to me even before the event for the few days. Can you get me tickets? Who else is going to be there? Are you speaking? And I said, no, I'm just the MC. I'm there to introduce the celebrities. Maybe I'll make some jokes in between, but I'm really just honored to be a part of it. It really was an honor first of all, to see everybody behind the scenes. We were talking about golf carts and making sure people arrive on time. I believe the first panel was called for 11 o'clock. And I reached out to Chaim. I said, what time should I be there? Maybe I reached out to you, and you guys told me to be there 10:30. So I live in Brooklyn. This was in Jersey. I put in my GPS. Okay, it says I'm going to be there 10:22. And while I'm driving, I'm also working at the same time. So I'm texting, I'm calling, and I made 2 wrong turns. And all of a sudden I see my GPS is now 10:54. Okay, no problem. I got 6 minutes. Anyways, I pull in and I see that the parking lot was a little further away from the main building. But right there and then, I see a golf cart pulling up. And it's got room for about 8 people, and there's 1 seat left. 1 seat. And I actually felt bad because there was a gentleman waiting for this golf cart. And he was a little older than me. And I usually never do this. And I said to him, hey, I'm part of the talent. I need to be on stage in 5 minutes. And the guy says, no problem. Now, he probably thought I was lying. And I got into the golf cart, came in, everything worked out, thank God. This guy came over to me during the show and said, I thought you were lying. But I said, whatever. And so he knew I was telling the truth. But
I called you, Steve, where are you? And you're like, I just hit the parking lot. I'm like, okay, this is not happening.
Yeah.
You're not going to be on time. But 2 minutes later, I'm like, how in the world did you get here so fast?
Yeah, it was the golf cart, the transportations. That was very good. I see you're active on LinkedIn. I see you're very active on WhatsApp status. I'm personally not an Instagram guy, so I don't know if you're active on there. You mentioned earlier that you did some events for some sort of charities and obviously for other business ventures. I see now, specifically now that I have you on WhatsApp status, I see you take your networking skill, and it's not just about making money. I noticed recently that you started raising funds for various causes or specifically for families in need. I happen to be a big fan of charity, of personal people who need it. Yes, it's always nice to give to large organizations. Charity is great, no matter what you're doing, whether you're supporting this or supporting that. But the way you collect, and I've seen you, there's a family that needs food for the weekend, for Shabbos or for Yontif or for the holidays. They need $1,200, and you just put it up on your status, and you're okay. Now we need 1150, and now we need 1075. All right, I just got the 360, and it's totally you're leveraging your power of networking and your network to really give back. It's really tremendous that you have no fear of subjecting your network to that. You have a lot of people who are in business, and they deal with a lot of rich people, and they don't want to mix and match. Hey, I deal, he's my lawyer, he's my client. I don't really want to. And you put it out there. Now you're not, as far as I know, you're not reaching out to people personally, but you're putting it on your network, and whoever wants to give, they give. And it's really commendable.
You came in when you were seeing $200 donation, $300 donation, $500 donation, you're seeing that. But a few years ago, it was $10 at a time. Okay, I'm at 478. Who's in for $22? And who's in for 18? Can I get 10 people to give me $18 today? And that's how we built it up. I don't reach out. I started once a year. Before Passover, I'll reach out to anyone that I think with 90% certainty can afford $50. If I think there might be a chance that you can't afford $50, I will not send you a message. And then I send out a broadcast message to those people. And I say, I'm saying this to everyone, so feel free to ignore it. I don't really send it to everyone. I send it to a curated list. But it gives them the out, because the one thing I hate is people being presumptuous, because I get this all day. Oh, Joel, can you sponsor? I'm batting for something. I'm like, I'm very bad at batting. He says, no, can you give money to my page? I'm like, okay, yeah. Like, I don't like it. Leave me alone. I'm biking. Great organization, but go bike. Okay. Leave me out of it. I don't want to mess up your jive over there. And then with rich people or people that I do business with, so it's funny because the attendees, we have nursing home owners, real estate owners, large organization, like we do 10 plus different industries. They're really not the people that we do business with. We do business with the sponsors, with the exhibitors. They tend to be more down to earth people, even the billion-dollar companies. And I'm at war with the ego. So if you have an ego, it's your problem. I'm going to reach out to you, or I'm going to post to my status. And I had a billionaire, a guy that ran a multi-billion-dollar fund, and watched every single one of my statuses. And I gave him opportunities here and there. And I started, it really annoyed me. Like, he wouldn't pitch in $50. I never asked him, but I'm posting him, some others. So I started like calling them out, and a couple of them stopped following me. Like, I didn't call them out by person, but dude, you're a billionaire and you can't give me $50. And I think part of that is also they're used to being solicited for 5,000, 10,000, and they don't know how to just donate $50. It's beneath them. So but I don't care. I really don't care about other people's egos. It's their problem. And if you look down on me because I'm busy raising $500, it's fine. So I got into it. I had a partner. I was a business partner that he lived in Israel, and he was somewhat affiliated with an organization there. And they raised money for a widow's, like, they showed a picture, her ceiling is like falling in. Can we get a contractor to come? And then we just need $200 for supplies. So things like that. It really spoke to me, and I started to help for a few cases. And I tried helping the organization because their marketing was terrible. They're like promising this and telling stories. I'm like, all you got to do is your ads, the roof, $500, one electrician, 3 donors. Like, it's a no-brainer. They want to listen to me. And then every time one of my people donated, they would start calling them every month. I'm like, forget it. Goodbye. And somehow one person reached out to me, another person reached out to me, and I got this following where I made people, not a new following, but people that I already am networking with on WhatsApp, relationships, friends. I made them feel very comfortable to reach out if they needed help. So they feel like this is, and a lot of people end up putting in more than they took out in the past. So as business moves, as their work improves, they feel like they want to give back. So it's a great community.
Sure. If someone came to you tomorrow and said, I want to build the next Powwow, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them, or the biggest trap that they should avoid?
So the biggest trap is thinking, which is all events and all event organizers, the majority of them, it's about them. You mentioned the blazer. You said the party blazer. I actually have one in my closet. I can bring it and show you. It's got the sparkles and the black velvet lapel. And I bought that when we had Damon John we did a very upscale Amazon event one time. It was called the Aggregator Show. It was at the time, these large companies, private equity, they were creating these aggregators and buying Amazon accounts. It was a disaster. Everyone knew it was going to be a disaster, besides these billionaires. We all thought they were nuts because there was so much you had to know. It's not like running a company like Amazon is, and they all failed. They all crashed one after the other. But this was at the height of it, and we brought in big Amazon guys. Anyway, so we thought, okay, this was like a retreat. We'll bring Damon John in, and he'll speak. But he had 2 tiers of what he did. One was the keynote, one was a fireside chat. Oh, who's going to do the fireside chat with him? Me, of course. Who else? So I got this sparkly jacket, and we did this thing. We had this gorgeous LED wall behind us. And so I had that jacket. I realized, and this was 2 years ago, in the past 2 years or so, as we were getting more, and as we had to really prove ourselves, we had the disaster with the food at ReBeach. The first healthcare of this setup was 2 ballrooms. It was a mess. A lot of people were unhappy. These experiences humble us, and we say, okay, so it's not about us. It's not about us arriving in fancy dinner jackets. It's about the guests. It's about the hospitality. And most importantly, it's about getting business done. so that the right people are in the room and the right people are talking to each other, and we are out. We're picking up garbage from the floor, pretty much. So that jacket is there in the closet, and maybe I'll frame it once I really get over my ego. But the first thing I would say, long story short, it's not about you. So if you want to create an event, you want to create a conference, a business conference, look, I'm wearing the Trump hat. Okay. So we did an event last year. I don't know if you followed that, but we in Deal, New Jersey, and it was a Trump fundraiser, and we ran everything pretty much. So it was the hardest 8 days of my life. We came in on Sunday morning and the following Sunday, like literally we acquired the gig on Sunday, and it was every single day, site visits, Secret Service walkthroughs, Trump advanced teams walkthroughs, practicing the songs and the walkouts and who comes first. It was insane. So we would create these cool Trump hats that say Powwow on them. And then they had Trump 47. And when I made this Tuesday or whatever, I was hoping like, okay, Trump will sign it or whatever. Because we worked so hard, and hard work humbles you. We worked so hard, and it was like every detail. So Trump did 2 hours of like an hour of pictures and then an hour of the big donors and stuff. I don't want to say names, but some of the real estate guys were there. And I had to one guy had to literally walk him past Secret Service. And let's just say this guy was me a big favor. So we were doing so much that it started becoming like, we just have to execute, and we just have to make sure that it's 6:00. When Trump walks out, this and that, they all come together. So I literally did not have a moment to even go pose for a picture or do anything or get an autograph. And then the second he leaves the stage, like the AV and this and that, and this has to go on. And then at night when it was over, everyone was like, well, where's the selfie? The autograph? I'm like, there's no selfie. It was work. And really, that's really what it's about. It's about delivering. And then if you keep on delivering and you consistently deliver well, at the end, the glory will happen. The only problem is that at that point, you don't care about the glory. So that's the slight issue. If you run away from it, at the end, you don't really care about it. Of course, I care about glory very much. I'm just saying that what's important to me and to my partners is understanding that it's not about you. And because if you want that paycheck, you need to deliver quality. Quality has nothing to do with putting yourself out there. It's creating an environment.
So you mentioned that we're going to end off over here, but you mentioned that taking selfies by these events.
Yeah.
And when I was the MC by the Redeal event, I wanted selfies with all the panelists. They're all big names, and it would look great on my LinkedIn. And I consciously didn't take a selfie because I didn't want to bother them. But there was one person, ReBeach, who I had to. And being the only other person on the stage with him and Ralph Hertzka, I figured I'm just going to do it. And I got it and I posted it. It was real nice. It was very nice to get. And you mentioned, we were talking about the jacket, just to give you an example. I was driving home from the event, and I was driving with somebody in the car. I was giving somebody a ride home. And my wife calls me and tells me that there's an engagement party of art. Can you stop by? Just whatever, just say Mazel Tov, congratulations. And I say, sure, but I just want to go home and put on a suit or a jacket. And she says, oh, aren't you wearing a jacket or a suit? So I say, yeah, but it's not something I could wear, really. So she, okay, whatever. And I hang up, and the guy in the car says to me, what's going on? Why can you wear? I say, this jacket? This is not real life. This is when I'm an MC on the stage. This is not something I could wear in Brooklyn or show up to a shul event, a synagogue event. I thought that was funny. One last question. Where do you see Powwow in 5 years from now? I know you're putting together, what is it called? The BOH show, the building show. I know you're in a bunch of different verticals, so to speak, different industries.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years, Powwow?
Before the building show, that's in August. That's in less than 8 weeks. There's the retail show, the brick and mortar show. Also, we're getting a lot of redeal guys that own strip malls. It's for the retailers, for the store owners, but we also want the retail, like Meridian Retail Leasing is there, right? So that's in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I don't know. Where do we see Powwow? So I used to have a plan. I used to have it mapped out. Okay, in 3 years, we're going to be here, and then I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Now there's no more plan. So it's just really like the plans to, I know if we play our cards right, God willing, there is going to be either a big exit at some point, or like we know where this could go. But instead of focusing on that goal, we're learning that the only goal we have is to make the next event incredible and grow it. We're barely scratching the surface. New York real estate, 1,000 people or whatever it is, it's nowhere. And not to say that you need to have 10,000 people. That doesn't necessarily give it a better event, probably hurts the event, but we're really early in this journey. So our mission is just the next event to improve, and we'll see where this goes.
Okay, Joel, it was a lot of fun to have you here. Definitely enjoyed your interview very much. Like I said, I had a bunch of questions, but luckily for me,
You asked for the history. That's why I
you're
say
good. You're good.
don't ask for history, because it's too long.
They're
Started at 40 because the event company started at 40. And my life really started at 42 when I started battling the ego. That's going to be a long, like Netanyahu says, it's going to be a long battle. We'll see.
Joel, it was great having you. To everybody
Thank you.
else, Joel is a power player, Powwow Events.
Powwow player.
A Powwow player. Yes, he's great. Really fun interview. If you enjoyed watching, click like, subscribe, share. Joel, it was great to have you. And
Thank you.
we're out.
Appreciate it. That was great.